Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for CEO Exclusive, brought to you by Anona Enterprises.
Good morning and welcome to CEO Exclusive, where we get emerging trends from CEOs and their most trusted advisors. I'm your host, Ginny Helms. I'm really thrilled to have a first on the show today. Last year, if you'll remember, we had the leadership team from AG Rhodes. It was Al Blackwelder and his COO, Deke Cateau. Well, today, Deke is coming back as the CEO of AG Rhodes. He's been promoted. And I'm really delighted to have you back, Deke, and along with one of his partner companies that works with them, Ginny Helms from LeadingAge Georgia. So welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ginny.
Yeah, so Deke, tell us a little bit about AG Rhodes and like your transition and how you've come back and, tell us what's happened in the past few months.
Well, thank you again for having me. Second time around, obviously, I'm a bit happier than the first. AG Rhodes is one of Atlanta's oldest nonprofit organizations. We've actually been around since 1904, serving the Atlanta community. We are a group of 3 nursing homes, which take care of some of the most vulnerable older adults in the Georgia and most particularly the metropolitan Atlanta area. We serve about 1,100 elders per year, and we have been doing that, again, really for a very long time, more than most organizations. It's quite strange in Georgia to find nonprofit nursing home organizations. There are a few of them.
In fact, I don't think it came up that you were a nonprofit when we did the show before. Yes. And I was surprised when you told me a couple days ago.
Yeah, we're one of a few, but we pride ourselves in being a nonprofit and being able to add a little extra to our programming because of our nonprofit status.
Mm-hmm. And Ginny, tell us about LeadingAge Georgia.
Well, LeadingAge Georgia is a statewide association that represents mission-driven organizations dedicated to providing quality housing, health care, and community-based services that people need when they need them and where they need them. And I think the real emphasis is on mission-based, and that's what makes the difference for our members.
And Deke, so tell me what happened. I got this call from Mary a few weeks ago that said, "Hey, listen, Deke's now CEO." And I want to tell our listeners like what's happened in the past few months.
Well, I've been with AG Rhodes for about 9 years. So I'm not the newbie to the organization. I absolutely benefited from, I think, a very in-depth, although non-formal succession plan with my organization. So I started off as the administrator of our Grant Park, Atlanta location, and did that for several years and was given the opportunity to see the organization from a greater or higher leadership level. So I had 2 stints, one as a chief of strategic implementation. And of course, when I came on this show last year, I was a chief operating officer. And through those opportunities to lead in different areas, I'm just proud and happy to be afforded this one to really impact, I think, our residents in a greater level as CEO of the organization.
So it's one of the things we try to accomplish in the first half of the show is really giving our CEO listeners something to sink their teeth into that they can use in their business right away. And succession planning is one thing that I found in my practice that is a lot of companies don't have a solid succession plan. So what do you think constitutes what you would see as a successful succession plan? I'm going to ask that question of Ginny as well. What did it entail and why do you feel like the succession plan that was put in place that has now led to you replacing Al has been successful?
For me, there are 2 main aspects to it. One is training staff, and we sometimes take this for granted, particularly in my industry, in our industry. We do not do a very good job of training managers to become leaders. So I think any organization should have a succession plan that is identifying managers, middle managers, and giving them leadership opportunities. One of the great things about Ginny's organization, for example, is they have a leadership academy. We at AG Rhodes have sent several staff members to, we're about to send 4 more members there as well. So that training aspect, I think, is critical. The other aspect is just talent identification and understanding that every role or job in your organization has potential vulnerabilities if or when staff leave, if someone gets sick and is not able to be there. And in spotting these vulnerabilities, I think you are able to identify trailers or individuals who can step up into those roles when needed.
Mm-hmm. And Ginny, what is your thought on that? And do you have a formal succession plan at LeadingAge Georgia?
We do have one, and I'm actually in this job as of December 1st, thanks to a strong succession plan. And I want to say that I think LeadingAge Georgia has an incredibly strong board who really had a great appreciation of that and made sure that that plan was in place. And then I think that they were really crystal clear on some attributes that they thought were important in order to keep LeadingAge Georgia on the cutting edge of providing great person-centered care. And so I think they were looking for someone that really understood the importance of person-centered care, that our members who really employ that provide the best care. And then I think they also appreciated the need for strong policy and advocacy to support the different issues like fortifying Medicare and Medicaid. And so I think it was really looking at the wheelhouse. They did a national search. I was interviewed by 6 CEOs at once, and it was really quite good. And it was actually the strength of those board members, too, that made me really want to join the organization. So they had a strong plan, and I'm grateful. And Deke was one of the CEOs who interviewed me.
One of the things I'm curious about as we talk about succession planning, Deke, were you identified as the heir apparent?
I was, and it touches on what I was thinking and listening to Ginny. So my identification was less formal than Ginny's. I was identified from within the organization, and we also realized the need for us to look outside of the organization.
This is when you were looking for LeadingAge.
For LeadingAge Georgia.
Okay.
So I am the product of, I would say, internal identification. And Ginny is the product of realizing, hey, I think at this point in time in the organization, we need to look outside and bring someone in internally.
And so if you were identified as the heir apparent, one of the things that I think CEOs may hesitate to do when they're developing a succession plan is there's a lot of emotion attached to that promotion. Like people want it, people want the job. And so how do you, or did Al keep, people from getting emotional? Like, I wanted this, why Deke, that kind of the real kind of personal stuff that people don't like to talk about.
Well, a lot of that identification I was not aware of, firstly. However,
you didn't know that you were the heir?
Not formally.
Wow.
However, again, I was, and I was not the only person who was given opportunities, for instance, to come on your show, to work on public speaking and other areas that a CEO should be adept in. Opportunities to work with our board, opportunities to learn strategy and visionary practices, opportunities to understand the intricate operations of our organization. And I think it would behoove any organization to do similarly with many managers, not just one or two. And hopefully the cream from there would rise to the top.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ginny.
One of the things I liked about the process was that they gave us a list, the 4 finalists, a list of different resources, individuals we could talk to learn more about LeadingAge Georgia, and then asked us to come in with our top 3 priorities. And I think that was a great exercise for me, and I think that it worked well for making sure that our ideas for moving LeadingAge forward were in sync.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds to me, Deke, like what was happening is that these opportunities, like the public speaking, the opportunities to present to the board, opportunities to get involved with the strategy, making the business plan, things like that. They were also watching you and observing you and the other people who were being groomed through all of these opportunities. Is that?
That's absolutely you. I couldn't have said it better. I think part we have to be careful about is while you're observing, while you're watching, and you touched on it, you do not want to be so open with that you turn other people off, or you make it seem like the process is not as democratic and as fair as possible. But I think that's what astute leadership would do. Astute leadership enables you to watch from afar, take good notes, and in the end reward who the organization thinks the most appropriate, most qualified individual is for that position.
So As you're kind of creating this succession plan and thinking about, well, what are the opportunities we want to give to people? How do you feel about who gets chosen for those opportunities? Because I was just at an event about diversity and inclusion, right? And what happens, I think, and what statistics show is that a lot of times women and diverse candidates are never given those opportunities to even be groomed. So how does one think about, you mentioned fairness in like choosing who even gets the opportunity to get into those grooming situations?
You touch on a great point. I think in recruiting for any position, any onboarding opportunity today, 2018, you should be looking at diversity in that. You should ensure that you have female candidates, male candidates, candidates of different racial backgrounds. You have to look at that diversity spectrum initially and ensure that that is being covered. Secondly, you have to just have really solid, and Ginny's a product of this as well, have really solid proof points on what you want and what you're looking for as your ideal candidate. You have to have a scoring system to judge each candidate fairly. And at the end of the day, you have to trust that system and trust that the best person is going to come out of that opportunity and that system. But diversity in any of our jobs in our nursing home, we look at very, very closely. We currently have, I think, people from 20 different nations.
That's impressive.
Absolutely. I would say an example of a diverse product as well, an example of that. But you just have to in 2018 look at it, and diversity also. We're talking about just diversity of thought as well, not just diversity as in terms of race or sexual origin or anything like that. We have to allow employees at the lowest, at all areas in our organization, to have a viewpoint, to have a say, and we have to hear them and listen to them because they might have diversity of ideas that couldn't benefit the organization.
And Ginny, I would love for you and Deke also to speak to the sensitivity around internal versus external candidates, because I know that can be a touch point as well.
I think you're exactly right. And I think Deke touched on very important points, which is to get crystal clear on what you're looking for. And then when you see the talent, whether they're inside, whether they're outside, you build it. And I think one of the beauties of LeadingAge Georgia is that they really try to help members build the talent within. We realize that the future leaders are right there inside a lot of times. And so we are really cultivating those through our Leadership Academy and through the other education that teaches them to be person-centered, which we know is going to help make them be better managers and also better in interacting with our residents. So it's the different traits that we're trying to teach in our different educational programs too.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of hiring from within or from without is the two main reasons you do it. So the internal candidate, of course, knows the organization better or should know the organization better. And by virtue of that, should be able to understand the nuts and bolts and make changes immediately because of that. They should have less of a learning or orientation period. The external candidate brings, not while they would not know the organization so intricately, they are able to make immediate change because they don't have to really walk closely through the some of your political issues and stuff that you might have to deal with. They immediately come from the outside with a credibility to be able to make changes. I don't think there's a really advantage over either one. I think it depends on the position your organization is now, why you're looking for a CEO at this point. As a standard at AG Rhodes, we want to hire from within first. That is really what we hope to do. It is not always possible. And I think we try to hire, forgetting all that we said, we try to hire the best man, woman for the position.
So one topic that, is kind of unrelated, I'm going to skip a few lanes here that I would love for you to weigh in on. And I think you all wanted to talk about it too, that doesn't really have to do with succession planning, is some of the stuff we've seen in the news recently about your industry and some of the trends and use of psychotic drugs and things like that, that I think for people who either love or have somebody that's in a nursing home would be interested in hearing. So do you want to comment on some of the trends or, what we're hearing in the news about that we've been hearing in the news in the past week or so?
Yeah, absolutely. Nursing homes, sometimes I say have a stigma attached to them. We deal with some very vulnerable populations, as we said earlier. One of the big stigmas right now is the use of antipsychotic medications in nursing homes, or I would say the inappropriate use of antipsychotic medications. And for several years now, the federal government and Georgia in particular, through our QIO, Alliant Quality Care, has had a big push to decrease the use of these antipsychotic medications when they're not indicated, when they're not needed. At AG Rhodes, we are proud to say we have a single-digit percentage use of antipsychotic medications. And we touched on some of the reasons earlier for that is we try to individualize our care. We try to practice person-centered care and look for non-medication alternatives to many behaviors or many unmet needs of our residents. Ginny actually is in a wonderful position as well to talk about this because in a previous life, she worked at the Alzheimer's Association. And they saw not only in nursing homes, but also in the community, there's a lot of off-label use of antipsychotic medication.
Yes, and I worked on the committee with our quality improvement organization to decrease antipsychotics in Georgia. But here's what we know, and that nursing homes have a high percentage of people living with dementia. And with dementia comes anxiety and comes agitation. And what you have to think about is that person can no longer think through what it is they're supposed to be doing in their daily life. So things like bathing even become a stressor to them. And so I think we have to pay attention to what are the stressors and what can we do to de-stress that individual. So like Deke said, the more individualized care you can give, the better comfort that person is going to have and the less anxious they'll be. And so I agree that at some point, antidepressants and antipsychotics might be needed, but we have to start first on meeting the needs of that individual. So if Mrs. Jones, likes a quiet morning, we don't need to jerk her out of bed at 6 a.m. for her shower so she can be ready for breakfast at 8 o'clock. And so the more we can focus on, what does it take to de-stress her, the better it's going to be and the less likely we will need the antidepressants or antipsychotics. With that said, recent studies out of Harvard show that anxiety is one of the early signs of dementia. And I don't think that we can ever disregard that anxiety is there. We really need to focus on it and focus on what can help that individual feel less anxious. You ask a geriatric psychiatrist, what would a person who's not elderly have when they are exhibiting anxiety? It would be an antidepressant. And right now, Center for Medicare and Medicaid, CMS, includes antidepressants in with antipsychotics in reducing them. And I think that's something that we need to take a look at. But the other thing that we need to take a look at is that so many nursing homes don't have the staffing levels that are needed to provide the care that is needed for that individual. So a lot of times that staff is hurried. And when you hurry an anxious person with dementia, you're looking at a situation that isn't good either for that individual or for the staff. So I think that we really need to get serious about looking at staffing levels, and we really need to get even more serious about person-centered care. Deke and his community is one that is really committed to it, but the others aren't quite there yet, and it's an area we need to work on.
So let's unpack this for folks, who are not in the industry and may not be familiar with this. What is person-centered care, and how does one reduce the stigma around aging? Because you're right. The average person's view of a nursing home is not sexy, right? Like not nice. Don't like nursing homes. So, what are your thoughts on that as the CEO of one of the oldest nursing homes in the city?
We got to go back in history a little bit. So most modern nursing homes that exist were built back in the 50s and 60s. And they were built with federal stimulus money, which allowed us to build hospital and hospital-like environments. And that's what nursing homes became. So nursing homes have become hospital-like environments on a very medical model. Nursing homes look like hospitals, long hallways, with a nurse radiating from a nurse's station. And because of that, many of our alternatives for care have become medical. So because of that, we have looked to medication.
Yeah, I don't want to live the last 10 years of my life in a hospital.
None of us do. Yes.
Right.
So person-centered care or person-directed care rarely looks at the medical approach last. Before that, we look at social approaches. We look at the individual. Why are they behaving this way? If they're agitated, why are they agitated? If they're in pain, why are they in pain? So we try to get to them on an individual level. And if you think about it, it seems like such a simple thing to do, but it is not. And it is not because, like I said, since the 50s or 60s, this is the way we have operated. So AG Rhodes have started that long walk in moving towards a person-directed environment. We have come a long way, but we're not there yet.
And how does this compare to the household model that Isaacson came on and was talking about, like, I think at the end of 2016.
So Isaacson Senior Living is another one of the organizations that I think are really working or trying to work in a person-centered model. So the household model absolutely stresses person-centered care as well. The household model also has the physical ability to do this because they do not have the long radiated hallways. They actually look and feel like houses, like households, which is ultimately what we want. We want to put the home back into nursing home, and we want to turn these medical model nursing environments into homes for older or senior individuals.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to spend the rest of the show talking just about this. So listeners, we're talking to the new CEO of AG Rhodes, Deke Cateau, and CEO of LeadingAge Georgia, Ginny Helms. So the second half of the show is talking about, culture and how you all lead people effectively. Tell us about your philosophy on creating great teams. Deke, when you were on before, we talked a lot about how you have lower turnover than your competitors because of your great culture. So tell us what's like your approach to continuing to follow through on that culture, maybe some of the challenges that you're facing. And why you chose Ginny to have Ginny on the show with you today as well?
AG Rhodes has been a member of LeadingAge Georgia for quite some time. LeadingAge Georgia also serves as an advocacy group for nonprofit senior organizations in the state of Georgia. We have very shared values, particularly values in taking care of our employees. The AG Rhodes approach is and has always been that we take good care of our staff, and they in turn take good care of our seniors. That is becoming increasingly a challenging project, as Jeannie said, due to staffing requirements and due to funding issues. But we primarily still believe that is the key to our care. So starting next week, for example, in my new role as CEO, I'm going to all of our homes and meeting with staff, meeting with the CNAs, meeting with the housekeepers, finding out what makes them tick, finding out what are their issues. And in that way, ensure that we have a culture that is really cued in on not just ensuring our residents are taken care of, but ensuring that our staff are taken care of, because I think we have a huge obligation to them as well.
And Ginny, as you think about working with all of these groups, how are you building a culture that across these organizations of really working towards great working environments at all of these nursing homes?
Well, I think one of the things that helps is when we have the leadership attend the different programs that help them with this way of thinking. Deke has thoroughly embraced the concept of really valuing the employees, listening to their input, and making them a very big part of the great level of care. And I think that through the different programs that we offer, through the Leadership Academy, through this program called Eden Alternative, we help leadership get there in this same way of thinking. And I think that it's a fairly new concept. And so I think we almost take it from a quality improvement approach of taking different organizations where they are and helping them move in the direction that Deke's talking about.
Mm. And how are you working towards, or are you, right? I don't want to make the assumption, towards changing the image of nursing homes and the nursing home industry as Deke was saying, it's kind of not seen as a very sexy industry place. And there is a stigma associated with nursing homes and aging. And how do you think about that? And are you working to change that?
Yes, we are working to change it. And the truth is, you cannot fake it. Both the residents and the families that go into these homes know whether you are valuing that individual and really seeking to meet their needs where they are or you're not. They know if it's lip service. And so our members who really embrace the individualized care, the person-centered care, it shows. It shows both in the way the staff interacts. It might be, I can give you an example of one of our member organizations, St. George Village. A family member told me that he went in to get his wife to take her down to Mass, and he said to an individual, "Would you find so-and-so, the worker, to help me get my wife ready?" And she said, "Oh, I could help you." And then she also said, "Well, I think your wife might need to go by the restroom first. Let me help her with that." And got her ready, instead of, in homes who might not have been through this, might just say, "Well, let me get somebody, or let me turn a light on for you." And so it really is about implementing these things that make the individualized care work for the resident and the staff and the families. You feel it when you're in one of these homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some of that change comes through us, again, coming on shows like this. We also have to reach out to the community at why to understand aging is a reality. The silver tsunami is upon us. And we have to view aging as a positive part of life. It is it's a part of that spectrum of,
no, it's not.
Of wellness.
I'm fighting aging with everything.
So we're trying to dispel ageism. So we've actually started work in some of the high schools. We're talking with Marietta High School now. We're doing work with Chattahoochee Technical College, with DeKalb Technical College, with Atlanta Technical College, because we think we need to start a little sooner than we are. We need to have our young adults understanding aging and understanding that, hey, 2 or 3 of you are going to be there as well.
But that just seems to me like a almost impossible task, right? Like so this is maybe a little bit deeper than I even wanted to go on the show, but like aging is not a fun thing. I mean, like you lose your ability to do stuff and, like end up in a home where people got to take you to the bathroom before you go to Mass, like that.
You have some good points here. And I think the focus is on well-being wherever the person is. And I think it's true that people are happier the more independent they are. And there are things that we can do, like you. I can tell by looking at you that you exercise. Well, if we...
Woo! That's like, you're my new best friend.
No,
did y'all hear that?
Oh, you do too, Deke.
Did you hear what she said? She can tell by looking at me that I exercise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you keep your course...
You just made a new best friend.
If you keep your course...
This is the best show over. This is the best show ever. Thank you.
But if you keep your core strength up, you can decrease falls, and that helps keep independence. I mean, just getting your mother or father to walk can help, keep them independent. And those are things we need to think about.
Did you hear that, Mom? My mom stopped walking. She used to walk every day, and she stopped walking. I'm like,
better do it.
Okay, go ahead.
You're right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And well, in the homes too, we, the nursing homes of old, where, you think of these boring places. You
play bingo every day.
No, so we have vibrant activities programs. We have horticulture therapy programs. We have music therapy programs. We have aquatic therapy programs. Yes, residents go to the pool as well. So rarely, we have DJ come into the communities. There's so much that many nursing homes can offer today that nursing homes of yesterday. I speak as well as an advocate for nursing homes, not just AG Rhodes. We have come a long, long way. Even in reading the CNN and the antipsychotic article that came out recently, I think it does not do justice to how far we have come. Yes, we have a lot further to go, but we have come a really, really long way.
That's really great. Did y'all hear that she said, I look like I work out? Did you hear that she said that? Okay, great. So everybody, you've been listening to CEO Exclusive. We've had the new CEO of AG Rhodes, Deke Cateau, and CEO of LeadingAge Georgia, Ginny Helms, on the show today. I'm your host, Soyini Koch, and I hope you have a prosperous, productive, and very profitable week. Thanks.
This show is brought to you by Anona Enterprises, where strategy is your access to money and performance. Learn more at AnonaEnterprises.com.